2023. I'd like to invite Sergeant Leonard Fields for invocation and remain standing for the Pledge of Allegiance.
Okay. Father God, we just come to you in the precious name of Jesus. Lord, you know all the stuff on the consent agenda and the council business and the old business. So we do ask for wisdom and guidance. Thank you for the teams here, Lord, that they're working together for the best for the community. So I do thank you for Matthew, the new city manager, and for Sal covering that job until he got here. So I just want to give honor to them for working together and for him being here. Lord, just give him wisdom and guidance and as he works with the team. And so there's a lot of stuff on here. So we just thank you for the new city manager, for the roles and responsibility of the teams and each department here, the police and the fire department and code enforcement and county and, and all the stuff, the lawyer and all the things that we do. And we thank you for those that are here today too, to be able to see how your government works through your people to make this a great place to live and to work and to play and to come together and stand for what is good. In Jesus' name I pray, amen.
Amen. The flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Madam Clerk, you take a roll, please.
Mayor Johnny R. Coover.
Here.
Vice Mayor Todd McClary.
Here, virtually.
Councilman Tom Kinsella.
Here.
Councilwoman Linda Rodriguez. Here. Councilman Bill Colombo.
Here in reality.
Debatable.
City Attorney
My
Nancy Meyer.
reality.
Here. City Manager Matthew Koppler.
Here.
Thank you. And we prefer you virtual, by the way.
Actually, I'd rather be home in my jammies.
I'm glad you're here, Bill. Next up, we'll look at approved council minutes. I've got
Motion to approve the council minutes.
I got two sets, so we need to make sure motions for both 10:10 and 10:24.
Yeah. Do you have anything to add to it? Or?
No. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. 5-0.
There's a motion and second, sorry.
Motion to approve council minutes. Oh, sorry. Tom and Bill. That move to the council for general public. Read our statement here. Public participation is encouraged. If you're addressing the council, step to the podium and state your name and address for the record. For public comments, please limit your comments to 3 minutes. For comments on action items, please limit comments to 3 minutes on the current topic. Please limit your conversations while sitting in the audience during council business and silence your cell phones to not interfere with everyone's ability to hear the comments of both the public and the council during that time. With that, I've got two sign-ups. Danny Fields, welcome.
My name's Danny Fields, and my address is 8114 Leal Kidd here in Port Richey. So I just want to, again, thank you for your service and your leadership. I do got some stuff coming up in the Waterfront Park, and you guys should have a flyer on all this on your desks and stuff. So Christmas in the park at Waterfront Park at 8119 Old Post Road. It's Christmas, hope for the family and the children. It's going to be Saturday, December the 2nd, starting at 11 to 1. Come join us, hear the truth, meaning of Christmas. We decorate a Christmas tree, and that Christmas tree, the kids and the community decorates it with us as we provide that. There will be food, hot chocolate, cookies, Christmas music, carol, gifts for younger children. So we do have different people getting gifts, like the police department, fire department, and us in the church kind of networking, trying to see what we could get to give and be a part of that. And also there will be prayers and testimonies, and Santa Claus will be there. And Santa Claus, I'll just tell you, he was a Christian, and so we use Santa Claus still to be able to talk about the birth of Jesus. So he'll be in his costume, which is giving gifts to the needy and those who are less fortunate, and we're blessed to be partner with you. So I still got a little bit of time. So I did today get to read a thing here in the devotion that we give to the police officers and different ones we got for different ones. And it says this: give honor where honor is due. So first I want to honor God through Jesus Christ. I want to honor the mayor and all of you here in the police and the fire department for standing for what is good, noble, and righteous, and pure, to be a family, to be a community that stands for one another. Together, this is a place where we all need each other. The Bible says to love thy neighbor as thyself, and sometimes that's hard to do when we're at odds with one another. So together, though, we could talk and counsel a matter. And one of the major scriptures that I got, and for time's sake, I will say this. I was reading in Psalms 31, and it says, when a multitude of counselors comes together, there is wisdom, especially when we add the word of God. And when we do say a pledge allegiance to in God we trust, that has deep meanings to me as a Christian nation. So I just want to thank you for your service and time, and blessings to all. In Jesus' name, amen.
Thank you, Dan. Next up, I signed up Rogers. Welcome.
Pat Rogers, 4838 Sunset Boulevard. First, I'd like to thank you all for everything that you've done to help clean up after the storms. And I think it's finally done now, and the guys are back on schedule. Also, can anything be done about that when you make going north, the right turn onto Grand Boulevard off of 19, where the turn lane connects in with Grand, is a terrible lump and bump, and it's an actual step down in the asphalt. Now, after all that, we are having our Somebody Cares Pasco luncheon tomorrow. It's always the third Wednesday of every month at noon at Light of the World, and we host as a meeting place for many different churches to come join together to work, network, and just find out if each of us knows something that we can do to help our surroundings. So I'd like to invite all of you that can to come to that. And like I said, it's the third Wednesday of every month. If you could put that on your calendar at noon. Thank you.
Thanks, Pat. Yep. Thanks. Anybody else showing hands? Dave, welcome.
Dave Mueller, 5439 Blue Point Drive. Driving around the city, I've actually noticed some things that have actually are good things. That grate at the corner of, like when you head down Ritchie Drive and go to Walmart, past the Wawa there, that grate was repaired, and it was brought to somebody's attention here, and they actually got after it. So I'm thankful that we're seeing progress in that regard. Little things can become big things. Thank you very much for your service.
Thanks, Dave. Show hands. Anybody else like to speak? Seeing no hands, we'll move on. Oh, sorry. Welcome. Yeah.
Cynthia Malin, 5446 Blue Point Drive. I'm the secretary for the CAC committee, and I was just going to give you all a quick update on what we're doing and what's going on. Last meeting, we had the senior program coordinator from IFAS Extension County Office came in and gave a great presentation to us on possibility of plantings for within the waterfront park. She also highlighted a lot of public services they have available for free for the public, and those are consulting on salt-resistant plants and different things that will live in our environment. And they also offer 1-hour classes to the public. So there's a lot of different things that they will do. So it's really a great thing for people to check out. We've also talked about the some of the murals that we're trying to put together in the different parks, and we're going to try to take some people, try to put out the word to get artists to put in a bid to do our murals to beautify our parks. We're also going to have a November 29th meet and greet your neighbor at Off the River, which used to be the garage. And last but not least, we have the Christmas decorating committee that's going to go around and judge all of our people who put out lights, different things for our community. That will be on December 19th. We're trying to coordinate with the fire department to perhaps come along with us to kind of show unity and different things. So it'll be kind of a fun thing for the community that we're having on that. So thank you very much.
I'm assuming that was a CAC update.
I was unable to attend the meeting that night,
I
unfortunately,
just
so that's why they,
want to point out, there is a section on the agenda for
boards and committees.
boards and committees.
Yeah, and there's
And
no,
it's no big deal.
Yeah,
I mean,
you're fine.
They told me to get up.
It's fine.
in the future, there is actually
Little puppet to get
there's
up.
actually a spot. There's actually a spot for that. That's why I didn't stop you, because you can do it now or later.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter.
And normally the board's committee update, there's no 3-minute time limit, so you guys have as much time as you need to brief the board. So that comes after the comments from the city council and mayor in the future. But we'll we'll just move it, if you want to move that on it.
Yeah, just trying to make sure you all are aware of what we're doing and
Yeah.
No, it's
what to
fine.
do within the community and different things. So
No.
since Linda was out having fun.
I was.
Appreciate you staying in and giving us that update.
I was
So,
having fun.
I was.
anyone else? See no hands, we'll move on. To comments from the city manager.
Well, day
Mr. Copper.
2.
Do you have any comments?
Glad to be here. I've been spending time getting to know everyone and finding out about some of the good things and some of the issues that the city is confronting right now. Still a lot more to go. A lot of meetings set up for the next week or so. But I was going to turn actually over to Sal since he was here for the last 2 weeks, go over what's been going on. And next time it'll be all me.
Good. Sal?
Oh, I guess. Okay.
Just one last
All right.
order of business.
If I had to. On October 30th, the city staff had a kickoff meeting with FEMA representatives to begin the reimbursement process of city expenses from Hurricane Idalia. On Monday, November 6th, at the county EOC, the police chief and captain attended the Pasco County Threat Hazard Identification and Risk Assessment and Stakeholder Preparedness Review. That was a lot. The comprehensive study action plan bid we did our opening on 11/8. Results will be presented to the city council at a later meeting. That particular item may have to go out to rebid. The Public Works Department have addressed the drainage grates at Deidre Circle and Ritchie Drive and Wilkins Street. So both of those were raised to the level of the roadway, and there shouldn't be any more dips in those sections. The city's grant coordinator is preparing 2 grants to submit for: the Environmental Protection Agency Drinking Water System Infrastructure Resilience and Sustainability Program. We're using that grant towards our water plant for new storage tanks. And the Florida Department of Environmental Protection Land and Water Conservation Fund grant. We're submitting for Nix Park boat ramp improvements. Hopefully we can get funds towards that project. Advanced Engineering and Ayers Associates continue collaborating on both projects. I have a meeting scheduled with them this Friday for the Cody River Landing area bid packet. Advanced Engineering has submitted all their final attachments, and Ayers Associates. I've discussed with both firms about having the bid packet complete and ready to advertise by the end of this month. I know we were trying to push for October, but I just received Ayers Associates information on Friday, so I'm going to be collaborating with both firms to put it together in a bid packet and present that to the city manager to move forward. I'd like to introduce Daryl Rose, our new Public Works Utility Director. Daryl, if you don't mind standing. Daryl is our new Public Works Utility Director. He has been with Hernando County for 17 years. He's been with us for a few weeks now. He's acclimating very well. And we've got a lot of projects to work forward with him. Our upcoming meetings, we have another council meeting on the 28th. Our P&Z meeting will be on December 6th at 1 o'clock. Our CAC meeting is scheduled for the 7th on Thursday at 6 p.m. And then our 12/26 city council meeting is tentatively scheduled, but that may be on an agenda item to cancel that, as we usually do with the second meeting in December. That's all I have, council. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Al. Welcome to the city.
Welcome.
Moving on, we'll move on to comments from the mayor and city council. I'll start this time with Councilman Bill Colombo.
Just welcome to our new city manager. Looking forward to working with you. And no, that's pretty much it.
Okay, I'll flop over to Councilman Casella.
And thank you, Sal, once again, for all the work
And
you've done.
welcome, Mr. Koppler, to City of Port Richey. So looking forward to working with you, and hope we don't chase you away. And again, we said it so many times, Sal, all the work that you've done, and some of it was very trying. Fabulous job, and listening to the various workers, they were just thrilled. And thank you for correcting that grate that was within 2 weeks after it was reported. It was fixed, and it was like, wow, this is really cool. Why I'm proud to be a resident of the city of Port Richey, having those little things taken care of. And, that was awesome. Thank you. That's all, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you. We'll go to the virtual attendee, Vice Mayor McCleary. Your comments, please.
I have nothing, thank you.
Okay, thanks. And then last but not least, Councilwoman Rodriguez.
Want to ditto exactly. Thank you very much, Sal, for coming, and welcome to Mr. Koppler. I do have one other thing about the golf carts. As I'm sure we've all heard from many residents as well as non-residents in the area.
No.
Yeah, we have. At least I have. What I've done is Hidden Creek is a golf cart place on 19, and they put something on Facebook, and I looked into it. We can make our golf carts low-speed vehicles by getting license plates. It involves a lot of paperwork. I just gave it to them. They'll take care of it all, and then I'll take it to the DMV and I'll get a license plate, so I'll be able to legally cross 19. So even if we voted today to do all the work that was proposed, that golf cart, the ability to legally cross 19, in my guesstimate, would be about a year away. I don't know. That's a guess. Nothing moves quickly. So nobody will be able to cross legally for a very long time. So that was my solution personally, and I just wanted to share that with people. It's an option. If you choose not to do it, that's fine, but there is an option to legally cross 19, is if you make it a low-speed vehicle. I did check with Chief prior to the meeting to make sure that was in fact true, that I wasn't saying something out of line. So that is just an option. I just wanted to make sure the residents were aware of that. That's all I had. Thank you.
Thank you.
Could I ask a question to the chief? As far as the low-speed vehicles go, aren't they restricted to roads that have a certain speed limit?
Under 30 miles an hour.
Well, 19's not 30 miles an hour. You're crossing 19.
You can go across it.
You can go across it,
Yes.
You can't drive on it.
but you are driving on it.
Technically, you
Oh,
are.
it's a question I've heard, and I was curious about it.
I did ask that question. I was also not by Chief, but by the gentleman at the place where I took my cart. You can drive like a very short distance on a 45-mile-an-hour road to get to another 35-mile-an-hour road. Like if you're going from point A to B, you have to go on a 45. You can for a short period, this far.
Whatever, it's in
But
state
yes.
statute, whatever state statute says, that's what it is. That's all. Just a curiosity, because I'd heard the same thing that
Moving on to my comments, I've got several things to go through. I'll start with the golf cart update from my end, since we've talked about that. I had reached out again to FDOT just to kind of see if there was, I guess, other options available that wouldn't be as cost. And I'll share some of that. In my email, I asked, the city's looking at the costs associated with the ask, and it's putting in a dedicated left turn lane, a shared through and right. I reiterated that the community and business owners are really upset regarding the recent exposure this is receiving and the cracking down and enforcement of the crossing there. And I went on about some other things, and I also stated that, that being said, I'm respectfully asking that the FDOT review our data once again and see if there are any other alternatives that could be done to achieve approval. For example, maybe timing related around traffic signaling devices there could satisfy the department's concerns. So basically, I reached out to FDOT to see, is there any other way we can do this besides that particular project and those enhancements? And I got a response back from David Gwynn, the District 7 Secretary, stating that we're willing to work with your staff to look for ways to accomplish the safety improvements that are required to make a potential crossing safe and something we would be willing to approve. He didn't feel that the costs are anywhere near what we seem to think they might be. Of course, they're not willing to compromise safety when it comes to those crossings. Of course, we want safe crossings as well. So, point being is that they're willing to work with us. I think the first step is obviously get those costs back that Sal's already started on. So as soon as we can get those, I'll share those with the department. And then hopefully we can come to some kind of agreement. Maybe they kick in and help us. Again, I don't know what they're willing to do, but it sounds like we do need to make those changes. That's what I had on the golf carts. No, and I should have started with this, but I wanted to special thanks to Sal for stepping up and fulfilling the role of city manager. Obviously, you've done a great job over the past several months, and appreciate your service to the community. And then, of course, welcome, Matt. Glad you're here. I know it's tough to move from a different state and get acclimated, but we're glad you're here. Looking forward to working with you. Another thing I brought up last meeting was an update on the jet ski business. I got an email from Mark King from the Port Richey Water Sports, and I had Sal forward that out to all council. I believe you guys have seen that. They kind of explained the business and what they're doing. I know at the last meeting we kind of kicked that to the planning and zoning board as to be one of the codes that they cover. I believe they're, you might have to answer this. Are they shut down still? I guess that business.
They weren't shut down. They were just told that because they do kayaks and everything else there, they were just told that they couldn't do the jet skis. Yeah. So they haven't been shut down. They were just given a notice of violation about the jet skis.
So are they not able to do their jet ski tours that they talked about, I guess? Is that?
Well, they had it as jet ski rentals. Mm-hmm. They were doing it as jet ski rentals.
Yeah, well, the gist of the email obviously was that, they're not really renting jet skis. It's more of a tour type thing. And they kind of pointed to, I don't know if you got a chance to look at that or not.
I was going to, waiting for your attention. That has been sent to me. I'm going to review it and we'll analyze it. Since it's a notice of violation, it could be a citation, so I don't want too much conversation.
Sure.
We could control that, but it has been sent to me recently and I have to review it.
Okay.
I'll get with,
if you get an opinion
staff.
on that. Sure.
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, next up. The town hall, and this is on old business later on, but since it's coming up, the town hall for December. If we get a date for that, I was going to make a couple suggestions, see if we can go ahead and get that set since that's right around the corner. Has there been any thought on dates?
No date has been set yet. I know that December would be the quarterly meeting, so I was looking at those. So if you guys want to talk and
if you guys want real quick, so obviously Wednesdays are always bad for me. That's if you look at the first week of December. Monday is the 4th, Tuesday's the 5th, Thursday's the 7th, and Friday's the 8th. Any of those days would work, and we, if you guys are interested in keeping it on Tuesday, kind of keep the same case with council. That's an option, or Thursday even, or Monday or Friday. I say I'm good with any of those.
yes, CAC is Thursday the 7th.
That's right. CNC is on Thursday.
Any other day?
It forms with maybe the Monday the 4th, or Tuesday the 5th.
If you want my attendance, I cannot do the 4th or the 5th.
Okay. I'm not sure
But someone can cover if you want.
I'm not sure we necessarily need you guys there, but.
Yeah.
Tuesdays, but I don't know about anybody else.
We're good. Tom,
I
Tuesday.
don't have a problem.
Tom, Tuesday the 5th, does that work for you? Or Todd? Sorry.
Virtual, man.
Yeah, sure, that'll work.
Okay, and we'll do it 6. Okay, yeah, so let's set that for, Tuesday the 5th at 6. Next, small update. I'm not sure how this is going to turn out, but I had Sal, I think I mentioned this last meeting as well, put together a list of our projects. It's obviously appropriation time up in Tallahassee. I got that information and I forwarded that to Yeager and Hooper. Evidently, there's a form that needs to be filled for each one of those with some additional information, and I sent that today because the deadline was today at 5. I sent that to Matt to try to get at least a couple of those done. He did do a couple of those, and when we reached out to Trotter Deuce, which is the legislative assistant for Representative Yeager, made it sound like it was we need to have it into their system or whatever by 5 o'clock, and I wasn't sure if he's going to get in there or not. So, right before the meeting, I sent a text to Representative Yeager to see if make sure we try to get those two in there. So I don't know what the stats at, but they are aware of what we're looking for. The proper paperwork could potentially be there for a couple of the projects. We'll see how it works out. I'll work on trying to get those at least included, hopefully. And then the Senate deadline is a little later in the game, so we might be able to circle back with those guys as well to get consideration for some funding. Let's see. I want to bring up a couple more things. Planning and zoning. The last meeting that was supposed to happen, they did not have a quorum, so that didn't happen. I don't guess we were able to get a date before the next one, so that's unfortunate. One of the things I wanted to see if we could do kind of procedural wise, and I know with some of the boards I'm on, for instance, the MPO board, we get reached out to before the meeting to see if we're going to be there or not, just as a reminder, and to make sure we have a quorum so we don't obviously have Nancy drive in and spend that cost to do that and then do not have a meeting. So I don't know if a procedure way we can reach out to the board members a day or two in advance just to kind of get confirmation they're going to be there, and then we can cancel in time. I don't know what the procedure is for that, but we didn't have a quorum, and that was unfortunate that got canceled. And so obviously there's a lot of work that the Planning and Zoning Board needs to be doing for us, and that's got delayed a month now. So if we could maybe do something in the future and even for us to find out, make sure we're going to be here. Last night there was another master board meeting out behind the guard shack for the Harbor Point area, Sand Pebble, and they had Sheriff Nocco there as a guest speaker. They invited me out again, and one of the things I just wanted to bring up that he had mentioned one of the questions was about working together with the city, and he mentioned something about the radios that are different. I guess all the cities except for maybe Dade City is on the same frequency or same system, whatever. But there's difficulty communicating with the city on it has something to do with the radios. Again, I'm not sure what that is. Maybe you can elaborate on that. Is there some difference in the radio systems or whatever between us and Pasco?
We're in the same radio system as they are.
Is it different frequency you use or something?
It's different frequencies for different types of operations. They have some of their own and we have ours, but we can patch those systems together.
Okay. Well, that's one of the things he pointed out that was an issue, I guess, and it's across all the different cities except for I think it was Dade City. Actually, they have a lot set up that's a little more seamless. So that's one of the things that he pointed out that could help. So if we maybe look into whatever that is, that disconnect, if we could maybe help that along.
Did you say we already have it?
If you're referring to coming on board with their radio system, we're not there. Dade City is.
That's probably what he's talking about, yeah. And
but we still communicate on a daily basis.
Yeah, well, it's just something he brought up that was, I guess, a pain point for the county. So I don't know, and I think there's probably a heavy cost to do that, from what I understand.
He had a captain and a member from their communications department come out and meet myself and the captain probably a month and a half ago, and they did an informal presentation. They gave us a cost number, and I requested a written proposal, and I didn't receive one. I didn't receive any more correspondence regarding that. And then I saw the same captain at another event. This Crime Stop has been on September 27th, and he said that they had recalculated these numbers and that it would be somewhat lower. Again, I asked them for a written proposal, and I still haven't gotten it. So at that point, anything else I can do about that. I can't bring anything to
Sure.
the senior manager unless it's in writing what they're going to offer, what the services would look like.
Well, I was going to talk to him more about to see what it was needed. I'll make sure he gets some information to us so we can look at that.
What would the advantage or disadvantage be of either staying the same or switching to the different frequency?
Not necessarily frequency,
Well-
we'd be on the same. It's really taking over our dispatch center and doing the dispatching for the police department. They would do it. We would still have to maintain our personnel within the communication center because that's mandated that someone is in there 24 hours a day, 7 days a week in order to do teletypes and confirmations and things of that nature. And then there would be a cost associated with them for that service. So what's the benefit or not? You decide.
We're taking over our dispatch.
And charging us.
And I didn't get that part of the conversation, but it was basically the radio system or whatever.
That's a whole different animal.
So, I'll get some more information on that, but I would.
Well, sounds like a job for our new city manager to get involved in and move forward with it, so.
Already.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
On the table. I want to bring up about some of the other events that happen that the council is invited to. And one in particular is the MAP meeting that happens quarterly, the Municipal Association of Pasco, where all the cities get together and meet. There's the last two on August 3rd was the two quarters ago, and then recently 11/2. I attended both those and nobody else was there, so I'd encourage you guys if you can't make that. I know those were across the county, obviously, so it's quite a ways out there, but it's good, obviously, to hear those projects that are going to other cities, to give our update. Actually, Sal has been busy with doing 2 jobs, so I can understand why he couldn't make it, but hopefully we can get better participation in those going forward. And there's other events, obviously, that happen too, where I think everybody's invited. So I know when I attend a lot of these, I'll see people from Newport Richey. Several of their council members are there, but only I'm there from Port Richey, which is good. We have some representation there, but it'd be good if we could get together for some of those other events. Let's see, next is I attended the Port Richey's council meeting, last council meeting. Actually, both of it was virtual, but they had a couple of things I had mentioned about the PFAS. They actually signed on to that lawsuit stuff that's going on. So obviously it's important for them to do that. So I know we talked about that, but I just want to make you aware that they signed on to that. And there was another thing that I had mentioned to Sal a while back that I'd like us to consider possibly in the future, and it kind of goes along with this appropriation process. Obviously, we're starved for funding to do some of the projects we need to do, and it's an important part of the process to get state money for that, along with grants and all the other stuff that we do. We may possibly look at a lobbyist situation. That was another thing that they actually hired a lobbyist. I can't remember what the cost was for them, $40-some thousand, I think. I want to say that he gave us a quick quote of like 30-something thousand, where they would basically represent us for a year up in Tallahassee. They reach out to the elected officials and try to push to get some stuff. So it might be something we look at going forward in the future, is maybe retaining a lobbyist firm to lobby for some funding, especially with all the stuff we have coming. Let's see, next. Okay, the last thing that I have, and I don't want to get into necessarily a conversation about it now, but I just wanted to bring a couple things to light so that we hopefully maybe get it on the agenda going forward. Get my date in front of me here. And I want to preface this. I had a conversation with Nancy before, so this doesn't come as a surprise, obviously. And this has nothing to do with Nancy. She does great work, love her to death. But to be fiscally responsible, we're spending a lot of money on attorney fees. And I wanted to kind of share this. Where I have it here. I hope you share it. Okay. So I got some numbers together, and it's important to point out that before, and I'll share fiscal year 22-23, we had budgeted $67,000 for attorney expenses, and that was with math out. Nancy's firm, we hired them, I guess, mid-January, and so for last year, our actuals was 124,653, so we were over $57,000, an 86% increase. Now that was to be expected, obviously, because of the change. So that was, to be, like I said, to be expected. I do have one thing to ask about that after I finish this, about amending the budget, but I'll get back to that. Going forward, we budgeted $160,000, and you'll see on the consent agenda for tonight, there's almost a $21,000 bill for October, which is the first month of the fiscal year. I went back through April, and I'll just kind of go through real quick. So April, we had 11,000. May was 17,500. June was 16,500. July was 14, almost 15,000. August was 19,000. September was just shy of 13,000, and of course October almost 21,000. So if you take those and you average those together, we get an average monthly expense about $16,107.64. Which if you push that out 12 months, that's $193,291, so almost $200,000 when we're budgeted $160. So at that average run rate, and that's just assuming that those numbers produce a good average at 16,000. If we're closer to the 18, 19, 20, it's going to be a lot more. But again, using that average, it puts us to 200, which is going to put us $40,000 over budget for attorney fees. So why do I bring this up? Again, I want to reiterate, this has nothing to do with job performance or anything. Doing a great job. It's strictly business. What I'd like to see us consider, and there's a couple things we can do to mitigate this. Obviously, there's virtual opportunities where she could join us virtually. Maybe not for council meetings, but for other things, that's probably an option. Or even if we may work it out council-wise, because we pay an hourly rate. To bring her here costs us 2 hours of labor, hour here, hour back. And so that, for the council meeting, the last 2 hours, we're paying double because of travel time. So there's opportunities there to reduce that cost, and I think we need to be prudent about that. Another option, and I want to share this. So Newport Richey has an arrangement with their attorney, and he's basically a full-time attorney Tuesdays and Thursdays, every day of the week. He has office hours. His salary was just increased is $138,600. So that it's a capped expense for him to do the council meetings, any code enforcement hearings, all the things that an attorney does. If we need to reach out for information or whatever, all that's baked into his fee of $138,000. It's we don't get hit every time we have to do something extra. And I'm just using this example. Not advocating we hire him. I'm just saying this is an alternative way to do business from a city attorney perspective. So Tuesdays and Thursdays in office. Basically, he's there to answer calls and do other things. Capped at $138,600. All in. There's no benefits to that at all. And then if something special comes up where a real estate issue or something like that, they have negotiated rates with a few different attorneys that they would do that, similar to kind of what we'd have with Trask. If it's something Nancy can't cover, they have staff attorneys that fill that role for us. So we would still have that, obviously, but the issue that I see is that we're uncapped expense right now, and it actually limits some of the stuff we can do because we need to do a lot more, but everything we do, the charges keep adding and adding and adding. So I get to the point where I got to really make sure I need to call Nancy just to save the costs. Whereas if we had something that was uncapped, or something that was capped like Newport Richey has, we wouldn't have to worry about that. And there's things on the plate that we want to do, and we need an attorney, but we can't afford to spend like this going forward, in my view. So I want to put that out there. I don't want to talk about it now. I'd like to maybe possibly put on an agenda item. When Sal and I originally talked, and this might be an option, maybe put out a bid to see if we get anything, keep status quo, everything going, and maybe if we find somebody, then at that point we can look at maybe doing something different. At least try to get these costs under control. And again, there's virtual stuff and stuff we could do as well to help mitigate that, and we definitely need to do that in the short term.
I know you don't want to talk about it. I looked at this as well.
We can talk about it. I think
Yeah,
that.
okay. I looked at this as well, and a lot of the cost, what I saw was residents, phone calls, not a lot, but there were, I don't know, and I did not ask Nancy about this, so this is not, I didn't know you were bringing this up, so I did not speak to her about this, but like there were a lot of phone calls to residents. I'm thinking about COVID, I'm assuming, I don't know. That also adds into that, and prior to, you could not get with Mr. Matthew without, residents did not talk to Mr. Matthew. Here, yes, it went through the city manager. Everything went through the city manager, and that was the control piece to talk to the attorney. So that's also
If I'm interested, just so you know.
Yeah, and again, I did not speak to you, so I apologize for that, Nancy.
Those phone calls, assuming the only ones I can remember, those phone calls are from code enforcement issues where people are being prosecuted and they're representing themselves. That is like their attorney calling me.
Okay.
So that's why those calls are taken.
Okay.
I don't, if the citizen calls us because they want to chat, that goes to the city manager.
Yes.
So
Okay.
that's why, just so you know. And
Yes.
then that can change if that's the way we want to move forward, but that's why those calls are taken because
Okay, thank you.
they're in litigation.
Appreciate that, thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and part of that, part of the increased expense also, there might have been more attorney time involved because Sal was the interim city manager, and there was, some of that could increase the cost a little bit because there's probably maybe more engagement with the attorney than normally be, I guess.
And if you're looking at this last month, you also had PBA negotiations.
Right, sure.
Code enforcement's picking up, going to court, dealing with code enforcement, preparing code enforcement. So there's a lot going on.
Well, that's true, because we didn't have really code enforcement prior to last year that did anything. So that's a very valid point. Code enforcement was non-existent prior to, so.
Well, I mean, there's a lot of issues that council brings up too, that requires her to, that's been happening a lot, over the
We
past.
weren't reviewing codes prior to Nancy. Codes
Or
were
just,
stagnant. It's a lot of work.
I don't know, we did that one thing where we looked into a lighting code. How much time did you spend on that? That costs us money. So every time somebody comes up with an idea for a code, she has to do research, we pay money. And there's been a lot more of that, going on in the last 6 months.
Yeah, you really can't compare Mr. Matthew to this because this is a much more involved council than prior to, and we are asking for a lot.
I'm not complaining about the amount of work that comes through. This fact is, we don't want to stop that progress because we can't afford to do the right things. So if we could give it a look and see if there's maybe a better option out there, that's really what I want to bring up. And as a segue, I mentioned I'd come back to this, and this is my last thing on that budget. And that's just an example of we had Jim with the budget discussions last year, before I was here, obviously, and we budgeted $67,000 for the year. We hired the firm relatively within the first quarter of the fiscal year, and of course we knew we were paying pretty much double the rate. I think, I'm not sure what Jim's rate was, but I'm pretty sure it almost doubled. And so the impact to our budget was quite significant. And I know that the Florida statute provides that I think it's 166.241, item 8, that we can amend the budget a couple different ways. Depending on if you actually change the overall spending or whatever, you have to go through the same process with budget hearings and it's similar to regular budget. But if everything's the same, you're just tweaking money around. So in this case, how do we cover that additional attorney expense? I assume it come out of reserves. Is that? Yeah. So in my opinion, that probably was something that warranted it. We would have changed the budget to show that we're now spending 120 something for attorney fees and reduce the amount of reserves that we were putting in to show that. Again, it's something I think procedural we can put on the. Let me just read that. So 8, the governing body of each municipality at any time within a fiscal year or within 60 days following the end of the fiscal year may amend the budget for the year as follows. A, appropriations for expenditures within a fund may be decreased or increased by motion recorded in the minutes if the total appropriations of the fund is not changed. So it's something we can do it just through the regular meeting. B, the governing body may establish procedures by which the designated budget officer may authorize budget amendments if the total appropriations of the fund is not changed. So I guess that would be you could make those changes, or?
In our charter, it states it's the city manager that has
Okay.
authorization.
Okay. So it sounds like, I think if we have something like that going forward, where there's going to be a big difference in what was originally budgeted, if we can maybe look at that. I don't know what your thoughts are on that.
Yeah, no. It's, I like to try to keep on a quarterly basis a budget that's reflective of what we're actually doing. Again, we're just starting to talk about budget and all those other things right now, so we'll come up with a plan on how to do that and make sure we conform with what the city charter requires as well as what the Florida statutes require.
Cool. And that's all I had. Moving on to comments from boards and committees. I know we heard from CAC. Any other boards and committees? Seeing none, we'll move on to the consent agenda. Looking for a motion.
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second.
Have a motion, a second. Further discussion? Anyone from the public like to speak? Seeing no hands, I'll put it to the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Todd, you say aye? Okay. I'll wait next time. Sorry about that, Todd. Motion carries. Moving on to council business. Item number 3, discussion of city manager and city council roles and responsibilities. I'll pass it to Mr. Koppler for introduction.
So, I guess before I got here, there was a question about, or at least a request to have a discussion on what the roles of the city manager and city council are. I know that in your packet, Nancy had put together a presentation that kind of goes over a lot of this. And so we're going to turn it over to her to start off the conversation.
And this would be one of the things we.
Yes. Yes, you did. And maybe
Well, I point that out.
it might be easier if I go down here since I'm looking backwards.
I hope we see some cool animations and stuff. No, I'm just kidding.
Very interesting information. All right. All right. First, I will tell. I've been told not to give this away, but I will tell you that the content is mine, but the format I did steal from a coworker. As I know, Mayor Hoover knows, and some of you all also know, my firm does a lot of presentations all over the state. So I went to someone who knew how to make a pretty PowerPoint and asked for assistance. So I'm not going to take credit for. If you love the way it looks, it's not me. The content is me, so hope you'll love that too. But I wanted to start with what most of you know, but some folks listening may not know. That Port Richey is a council manager form of government. There's many different forms of government. There's hybrids in addition to many forms. I think some of the more common ones that you may hear about or see would be like the commission form of government, where there's no city manager, but each council person would be responsible for a department. For example, Mr. Kinsella would be Public Works. He would be kind of the lead of Public Works, the department head, plus being a council person. So different council members would have those responsibilities. There is something called a strong mayor form of government, where there would probably not be a Mr. Koppler, because the mayor would have that administrative duty and perform those functions. That's not what we have in Port Richey. Port Richey is a council manager form of government, which is why Mr. Koppler is here, and we're all very happy to see him, especially Sal. He is your CEO. He's the man who runs your town. So this, and I put the bottom where the source of this information comes from. It's kind of an interesting way to think about it. Your voters are your stockholders. They elect council, which is your board of directors. The board of directors has a chairman of the board, which in our case would be Mayor Hoover. In turn, the board appoints the CEO, the chief administrative officer, which would be the city manager. So the voters bring you in, the council in, you're the board of directors, but you hire someone to run the day-to-day. Same concept. So in a city manager form of government, the manager is fully responsible for all municipal administration, supervising city departments, appointing and removing department heads, preparing the budget for council, making reports and recommendations to council. The mayor is the ceremonial head of the city, and the mayor and council have little, if any, day-to-day role within the running of the city's administration. So you have a team. That's what the theme of this really is it's a team based for your solutions and service to your city. There's individuals on the team, and you're going to see some references to football in here. Randy started them, but my references are better now. It is a team. Everyone's here for the same reason. We all need to work together, but we need to stay in our own lane, play our own role, play our own position, and not get in the way of other people. So we're going to have the individual roles. We're going to talk about the city council, the mayor, and charter officers. It's too small to see. That's why you have a printout. This is the current organizational chart for the city. And you can see the lines, and the lines have meaning. And it shows you again, I can't see that far either, so let me look at mine. It shows that the very top is city council. And under city council, there's a line that goes to two people, city attorney and city manager. Those are your charter officers. And then from there, you can see the lines go down. Under city manager, you have the clerk, the finance director, and it goes down from there. That's just showing you how the hierarchy's set up.
Can I ask a question on that?
You can. I didn't make the chart, though.
Yeah, you're right, this is our chart. And what I want to point out is I believe, and Dave, correct me if I'm wrong, our chart used to have above the city council, which is, in my opinion, the most important piece, is that the residents are actually above the city council. They're the ones that...
Many cities include that on their organizational chart, just as like to show that, yes, that it's recognized that nothing below happens without the voters at the top electing council. Right. But this one does not have that.
So I would like to see, I don't know if you guys disagree or not, but I'd like to see that back on our organizational chart, because really it's without that there, where are the resident city?
We've had those charts set up that way in the past.
Yeah, I'd like to see that return personally.
Okay. Right. Everyone has a distinct position to play on the team. Here comes the football references, right? I won't talk about my college team. We can talk about those later if you want. But anyway, everyone has a position. Both of them are.
For the record, who's your team?
Well, it depends on the day. No. For the record, I graduated from the USF, so I'm a Bull. But I married a Seminole, and the Seminole football team's a little bit better right now than the Bulls. So right now, I'm a Seminole.
Okay, gotcha.
And my children aren't in college yet, so I don't know. All right, so this is now directed specifically towards the city's charter. Before was the generic manager, council, form of government. This is what the charter tells us is the role of Port Richey City Council. Any powers of the city shall be vested in council except as otherwise prohibited by law, included but not limited to those set forth in this charter. So what's that say? So anything allowed by law, your council can do unless there's something that limits you. And in this case, there's laws out there that, of course, limit things you can do, but your charter limits you. Your charter made this a manager council form of government, so your charter limits your power as council and gives the manager his duties and powers, which you no longer have because that's the way your charter is set up, your government's set up. Council is the legislative body. You tell me what ordinances to write, we write those ordinances, you pass those ordinances. You're the legislative body for the city. Powers and duties are enumerated in the charter. I didn't list them here. You don't want me to talk about all of them. You don't want me to read them all if we have business to get to, but they're specifically listed. And they're in the agenda, so you can look at them if there's any questions about them. You adopt and enact ordinances and resolutions. You appoint and remove the charter officers, which again, city attorney and city manager, but you may not interfere with city administration. That is the purview of Mr. Koppler. Now, the mayor's role is the same as city council. He's a member of the council, has the same duties, may not interfere with the city administration of the city. However, he also is the presiding officer, so as you can see, you run the meetings, that's what the mayor's supposed to do, and he's recognized as the official head of the city by the courts, by the governor, for exercise of military law and for other ceremonial services. And that's, in a nutshell, what the council does. And it's a lot. It's a few words, but that's a lot of work, a lot of responsibility. Legislative body, you pass the laws, you bring what the people want, you bring that vision here and make it a law, you make it work. But to get it implemented, you turn to Mr. Koppler, okay? And that's where we go to the charter officers, city manager and city attorney. I'm not gonna talk about the attorney because you didn't ask me to, but if you wanna talk about attorneys, I'd be happy to add that because, what we do, we talk. But, so I left that part out. So this is the city manager's role from the code, from the city's code. Each coach needs a quarterback. So Mr. Koffler is our quarterback. You guys are the coaches, he's the quarterback, okay? It's the executive branch of the government. He's the chief administrative officer, appoints, removes, and supervises by council. Powers and duties are enumerated in the charter under 3.02. Again, that's part of the agenda, but I'm not going to read them unless there's a specific one someone wants to reference or talk about. Supervises all departments, offices, and agencies within the city. Someone has a complaint about someone at Public Works, they need to go to Mr. Koppler. Someone has a complaint about a road that's messed up, go to Mr. Koppler. Someone's not getting calls back, they go to Mr. Koppler. That is their method to get to the root of the problem. You get calls, all of you do, we know you do, you get emails, they go to Mr. Koppler. That is the executive officer in charge of the departments and the agencies within the city to help get your vision implemented and done correctly. He's your quarterback. Relationship between manager and council. A manager works with council to develop and implement the council's vision. I have two quotes here, and the source of the quotes at the very bottom, it's pretty small, so you probably can't read it, but I found these to be, I think they make a good statement, and I thought that you would appreciate them. The relationship between the mayor and a city manager is important. It provides the partnership that translates policy into action and dreams into reality. Every coach needs a quarterback. Elected officials translate and prioritize the diverse pulse of the community into specific goals, and the professional manager organizes city staff and resources to get them accomplished. Those are quotes from two former city chairmen of county commissions, but it's the same process. The county commission's usually a little bigger, has a little bit more going on in their obviously in their county than a city would, but it's the same process. When you have a manager, council, form of government, council's the legislative body, you hear from the people bring you here, you know what they want to see, what they want, their vision for the city, you bring it here, you create that vision, you hand it off to Mr. Koffler to help it get implemented through his staff and move it forward. So only thing you do, stay in your position so you don't get called for interference. You're part of the team, everyone plays their role. Okay, and that's it. Short and sweet. If anyone has any questions, I'd be happy to try to answer them. It wasn't, anything long or in depth, but I wanted, as asked, just to kind of remind everybody, Mr. Koppler's role, the council's role, and the reason it's like that is because that's what your charter has called for. Okay.
Thanks, Nancy. Any comments?
Nope. I appreciate it very much. I'm glad to see this. I just wanted some explanation. Manager, when at one point I had contact with some of the people up in Tallahassee, and that city manager asked that information goes through him, work with him, so I understood. But it just seems like it got out of hand. And we hired a city manager to do this job. He needs to do his job, and I just want to make sure we all understand. I mean, if currently, I was introduced to a county commissioner. I was hoping to get some great contact with that county commissioner. I just don't know how deep I'm allowed to representing the city. So I just need some guidance going forward. But it just seems like we all need this. But going forward, I'll work with you, Mr. Koppler.
And basically, the most efficient way to get things done is everything goes through the city manager. That's why it's set up that way. I noticed some of the comments up there, and there's many cities that operate in different methodologies. Like you said, some are hybrids. They all have their own rules, but the rules basically here is, I know anytime I've ever gotten an email, all I've ever done from a constituent is forward it off to the city manager. And, unless the city manager contacted me back, I got a follow-up email from the same person, I forward it to the city manager. It's not my job, no matter what their issue is. I will listen. And, if it's a general thing that I find that I like, I might incorporate that into my position on something or other. But the bottom line, day-to-day function of the business to most efficiently work, it has to basically be through you. If we got all kinds of us dealing with certain people, it gets confusing because, say, for instance, Florida, the highway, talking about the intersection. If we got an email that's got like the council member in it and you're in it, well, the person in Tallahassee, they don't know how our form of government works. They have no idea. So, they're going to give equal weight to whatever somebody's saying. And what we're really doing then is we're now gumming up the works when it gets right down to it, because the single point of contact is how you get things done. Personally.
Sure. Okay. So first off, I love the analogies because, it really is, in the end, we're a team. And we're going to be successful not because one of us is successful, it's because all of us are successful. And so I think it's important to understand that and that goes for our staff as well. I mean, they're going to be as successful as what we are up here, and we'll be successful as they are. I think that, when it comes down to, and kind of where I thought this came from, in working with staff and what the most efficient way to get staff to be focused on what needs to be done. I always believe that coming to one person and holding, in this case, me accountable for what you need is the easiest for you. Because, you don't have to worry about the failure somewhere down the line. You just worry about my failure. And if, I have enough failures, you have an easy way to correct that and move on and get someone that, is not going to fail you. But from the employee standpoint, the problem is, and I think I may have said this in my interview to a couple of you, at least one of you, I think, that, employees do not come to work with the thought that they are going to mess up or be the worst employee. They want to come here and be the best that they can be, and they want to have a great day and want to do good things for our community. And when they're contacted by council members, they want to please the council member. The problem becomes, though, when we have, 5 members reaching out to the same employee with 5 different issues. And now it becomes, which one am I going to please? That's, now beyond the 5, they also answer to the manager and they have other responsibilities. Maybe it's, a federal or state statute they have to answer to as well. And so which one do they choose? And that's what my job is to help direct them to say, listen, this is a priority, this isn't a priority. But they don't necessarily have that ability when they're getting 5, what they consider to be their bosses telling them what to do. And so I think it's important that you keep me involved. And I may have said, I think in my public interview that other places I've said, as long as I'm on that email that you might send because you got a request from a resident about a pothole or a grate or, whatever the issue is, it may be good to keep me on it because I have a lot of different things going on, but going directly to Sal may be a better option. So it keeps me in the loop so I can hold our staff accountable and you can hold me accountable for that work. And I think in the end, that's what works in other communities and what's worked for me in other communities as well. I am here to serve you and the residents. And I'm here to help implement the vision that you come up with. But it does get hard when, that's not coming through me and it's going around me.
Well, there's a chain of command.
Yeah.
Plain and simple. There has to be a very clear chain of command for every staff. And that chain of command doesn't include me sticking my nose into what they're doing. Quite clear. That's my opinion. That's the way I've always operated. That's the way it's always been.
Mr. Jude explained it to me when I got elected, and it was a really good analogy, was if I go to Public Works and say I want the island mowed, they're going to drop everything on their plate to go mow the island. As opposed to they have a list of things that the city manager, Mr. Jude at the time, now you, Mr. Coupler, have given them. If they don't accomplish that list, they have to answer to you for that when they put that on the back burner because the council member asked them to mow the island or whatever the task was that we have, one of the 5 of us have asked. So I always went to Mr. Jude with stuff. I did go to Mr. Alexander once with a personal, in my neighborhood, I asked him a question and I went back to the residents and told them the answer because that was a thing. But I thought that was a really good analogy, so I will always come to you first and let you handle it, because you have to answer to us. So it's your responsibility to get the job done in a timely manner and set your priorities for the whole city, not just my problem or somebody else's problem. So, thank you.
Todd, did you have anything to add?
The only thing is, I agree everything should go through Mr. Conklin, and that's the way I'm going to be operating with anything. So, get ready to get any emails that I have, Mr. Conklin.
Not yet.
So the only comments I'll add here is that obviously I'm very passionate about serving the community. I made that very clear when I ran for office, that because there are some gaps in the past, and it really boils down to how well the city manager does the actual job. The better job that you do, and whoever's in that seat, obviously, the less complaints, calls we get. So I know there's been certain areas of the city that has had issues, and they felt that they weren't being responded to appropriately. And so anytime I get copied on an email by a resident, and I would encourage residents that they not look to me as a first line of defense. That's not my role, obviously, and I totally agree with that. And I don't, I want those calls if I need to step in and go to bat for a resident, but go to Matt first. He's going to be the one because when you reach out to me, I'm just going to go to him, and I've been doing that. And I think maybe there was some misunderstanding with the complaints that you had with staff, and I thought about it after the meeting quite a bit actually. But whatever conversations you had with staff was more conversations than I'd actually had with staff. And my understanding is, I asked Sal about it. Those employees, where they were, didn't go to him, so he was blindsided by the information too, which there's a real problem there, because if obviously the employees of the city have some kind of issue, their first conversation should be with the city manager, not an elected official, me, you, or anybody else on the board. And if somebody would have reached out to me, that would have been my first thing. Why have you talked to the city manager about this? So anyway, and I don't want to beat dead horses. Dave likes to do that, but this one won't write again. So, but I wanted to bring that up, that I operate based on when I'm engaged, and again, I'm passionate about that. And if a resident reaches out to me with a problem, my answer to that individual is not go to the city manager. I can't help you, because at the end of the day, I was elected for these folks that live in the city, and so I'm not just going to say, "Oh, you need to talk to the city manager." I've explained that every time I talk to somebody, and I will forward to the city manager the issue and say, "Hey, can you look into this?" This is, and a lot of that stems from is they would send a message and it would not get answered by the city manager or anybody else on staff, and sometimes I actually somewhat delay my response. It's a pet peeve of mine when I send an email and I don't hear back for days on end. And again, I understand people are busy, and a lot of times I'll give a day or two to get a response. But then I start to get antsy, waiting. Well, what's going on? Did they get my email? So I send it again. So I try, and I feel I really succeed in this. I've had several people compliment on that outside the city, within the city, that my level of response is outstanding, and it's admirable, and I take great pride in that, because when somebody copies me on an email, I'm going to respond back, and that person at least gets a response from me. Again, it maybe it's not my job to do that, but at least they know that somebody within the organization has heard them, and all I do with that response, if he's not in copy, is I add the city manager, and I'll say, "Hey, I saw this issue brought forward. Could you please take a look at this and get back with the resident?" As time goes on, as with Matt here, I'm hoping that will be much less and less and less. And as these things come in, he'll be taking care of that. But I want to impress upon staff and everybody here that it's been a problem in the past with communication. I don't want to, and everybody comes to the mayor because, they see the mayor he works magic. Well, I don't work any magic here. I can answer an email. And I do that. But, you know, at the end of the day, I'm channeling all that Mr. Copeland right here. He's the one that's going to get stuff done. And like I said, if there's a problem, he's not doing his job or whatever, and you make me aware, hey, I've called Matt 5 times and not got a response back. I'm going to ask Matt, this is what I'm getting. Is this, you know, can we fix this problem? And that's pretty much what I've done since day one. So I'll rest on that. The only other thing I wanted to, maybe if you could elaborate a little bit on is the whole interference thing. And I think that's probably, you can look at that in a very loose term that, you know, what's interference and what is not interference. In my mind, you know, when I'm copied on something, I'm facilitative because I get them in contact with the city manager and ask the city manager, ask my employee, our employee, to look into something because a resident that elected me and you all have reached out and is having a concern. And so I forward that on. I'm facilitative in that method, but I'm not, and believe me, at times it's frustrating to be in our position that we can't go directly to the building official and say, hey, you know, XYZ reached out to us, they have a problem with this. But I get the whole structure here, and it's important that comes from him because obviously we don't want the building official to stop, drop, and roll when the mayor comes in his office because he probably has other priorities that his boss actually has to do. And so I totally understand, and the thing is here for a purpose, and it serves a good purpose. But if there's a complaint that comes about the building official, I'm not picking on you, obviously, you just bright blue right there sticking out in my eyesight. But if someone comes in on that and they feel like they're not getting a response or whatever, and maybe they've tried to get out information to the city manager, maybe they went directly to me. And again, I do try to educate as that comes on. If I don't see the city manager was copied, most of the time they have been, but there has been times I've added that because they'll send a message to you, and then they'll copy me, and he may not be on there. There was one today, as a matter of fact, I think that I sent on. So I have been guilty, and after we had our conversation, I have been guilty in the past is when I get these emails in and I'm copied, the building official, code enforcement was on there as well, and I bumped that to the city manager, and I did not remove them. I don't necessarily like that approach because they were in copy, and so I think when people are copied in email, it's good to keep that thread going with everybody in there. But I do understand that may be misconstrued as I bump that if I keep them copied. So since that conversation we had last week, I have removed staff if they were copied in there from those emails as I followed up. So I think that probably might solve that concern. Yeah, but just to clarify, I've never went to staff over any issue. It's always been through the city manager. And I think if you ask, and you're welcome to do public records request on my emails, any of you all to see that that's exactly what's been going on. So I wanted to just bring that to play. So maybe interference, if you could define that for us.
Well, your charter doesn't define the word. It would just be the plain meaning of the word because there's no separate definition. So it says neither the council nor any member shall interfere with the conduct or any department officer or an employee in the discharge of his or her duty. So if you only forward those emails or make you get the email, hey, I'm not getting a call back, here's my issue. You keep that to the city manager. There's no way anyone's going to think you interfered with a staff person or a member or an employee because they're not even copied. Stay at the city manager.
Yeah.
That's the way to do it. And if you need to email him 5 times, that'll be between you and him. If there's no, but you need more follow up or whatever. But removing staff from those emails will avoid that problem.
Okay.
And of course, there's obviously going in there and saying, hey, Mike, let's go write this citation. You don't get to do that,
Yeah.
I'm going to use Mike too, since he did.
I forgot, Mike.
So hopefully that helps.
Yeah. Any other comments? Okay. We'll move on.
these meetings,
It's where he sits. He's right there. He's right in the.
Moving on, item number 4, second reading of ordinance number 23-691, city council meeting start time. I'll pass that to Mr. Koppler for introduction.
On September 26, 2023, City Council meeting, the council discussed changing the 7 p.m. start time to 6 p.m. City attorney was instructed to draft language for an ordinance to change the start time and presented it to City Council for first reading approval during the October 24th, 2023 council meeting. The council voted at that time to approve the first reading of the ordinance, and this is for the second reading.
I will read it by title. Ordinance number 23-691, an ordinance of the City of Port Richey, Florida, amending Chapter 2 of the City of Port Richey Code of Ordinances to amend Division 3, Section 2-66 of Article 2 to change the start time of regular city council meetings, providing for severability, providing for codification, and providing for an effective date. And I will point out, this was brought to my attention by Councilman Colombo, that on page 50, the strike-throughs are missing for some reason. On this copy, the strike-through was missing, so we will correct that. It should have a 7 with a line through it and a 6 with an underline to show what the difference is. It was on the first reading. It was not on this one, but we'll fix that. That's just for the codification part of this. It doesn't affect what you guys are doing.
The physical copy that was signed
Has it. Perfect. So, thank you.
For motion and or discussion?
Motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 23-691, city council meeting start time.
A motion second, further discussion? Anyone from the public like to comment? Mr. Mueller, welcome.
Mueller, 5439 Blue Point Drive. So when are you going to make it effective?
It's effective immediately.
Effective after we,
Time.
Upon passage, yeah.
anyone else like to speak? Seeing no hands up, put it to vote. What's that?
I'll let you answer next.
Okay, thank you. That's right.
Sorry.
By all means. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. So now, going forward, council meetings will start at 6 o'clock. So, see you all a little bit earlier.
I will send out a huge reminder when I send
Yep.
the digital version.
Yep.
And along with that, actually, there's a posting out here on a placard. I want to say it still says 7:30 possibly.
Yeah.
So,
It used to be
Yeah.
7:30.
yeah, so maybe we could change that too. So I don't know if people see that, but just go ahead and change that as well. Next on the list, we have item number 5, second reading of ordinance number 23-692 to repeal ordinance 16-652, possession of cannabis or paraphernalia. I'll pass it to Mr. Copper for introduction.
At the August 22nd, 2023 City Council meeting, the council discussed and reviewed ordinance 16-652, which allows any person 18 years or older who has never been charged not to be charged or convicted for possession 20 grams or less of cannabis or paraphernalia related to inhaling or ingestion of cannabis. City Council discussed and directed the city attorney to draft language to repeal the ordinance. City attorney prepared the ordinance 23-692 to repeal ordinance 16-652 during the October 24th, 2023 City Council meeting. The council voted and approved the first reading of ordinance number 23-692.
Read by title. Ordinance number 23-692, an ordinance of the City of Port Richey, Florida, amending Chapter 18 of the City of Port Richey Code of Ordinances to repeal Section 18-82 of Article 3, providing for codification and providing for an effective date.
Looking for a motion and or discussion.
Motion to approve the second reading of ordinance 23-692.
Have a motion second. Further discussion? Anyone from the public like to comment? Seeing no hands, I put the vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed?
Nay.
Motion carries.
Virtual now.
Yeah. Item number 6, approval of 2023-2026 Police Benevolent Association, PBA, and City of Port Richey agreement. I'll pass that to Mr. Copper for introduction.
Okay, as part of Article 27 of the 2023-2024 contractual agreement, the PBA requested 3 articles for discussion. The interim city manager, city attorney, and city staff reopened negotiations after PBA city discussions and executive session with council. The city's negotiating team and PBA representatives have come to a new agreement for a contract with no reopeners until 2026. The contract has been ratified by the Port Richey police officers and the union and is now brought before the city council for approval. And just to let you know, since I'm not fluent on this, if there's any questions, I'm going to turn it over to Sal, the chief, to go towards those answers.
My only question would be, it says no fiscal impact. This won't have any fiscal impact?
Actually, well, I didn't want to put this in a contract, but it was the negotiated rate that we set as far as no openers. Nancy, if I can defer to you, I mean, how much of this can we actually discuss, without having to refer to an executive session? Can we dive into the particulars, or?
My question was just simply.
There is a fiscal impact.
There will be a fiscal impact,
But it
yes.
was budgeted, I guess, is that?
It's-
that's
yes.
why it's
Yes.
no fiscal
Yes.
impact, 'cause it's.
So it's a fiscal impact, but it's one we anticipated
Yes.
a budget for.
That's correct, yes. That's a good, okay.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Okay.
Questions, comments, motions?
Everybody's happy.
Motion to approve the 2023-2026 PBA/CLPR agreement.
Second. Linda beat
Linda beat him.
Yep. I have a motion second for discussion. Anyone from the public like to speak? Seeing no hands, I'll put it to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
You only get one vote, Todd.
I feel like it's a lot.
Cast Todd's waited two games. Motion carries. Next up is item number 7, purchase request for 6 sets of bunker gear. I'll pass it to Mr. Copper for introduction.
Fire department has implemented a process of purchasing 6 sets of gear every year to avoid having all bunker gear expiring at once. Gear will replace damaged and expiring gear. And I think in your packet there was a justification for what the purchase is, and I believe the chief is more than able. Oh no, we have someone else stepping up to the microphone.
I'm here for any questions that you guys have.
Anybody have questions?
My only question is, what's line item 117-22-512?
Fire equipment.
Under what fund?
Penny for Pasco.
Penny for Pasco.
17 signifies the Penny for Pasco fund.
Penny for Pasco. Okay. That's generally, they would say Penny for Pasco.
Was this budgeted too?
Yes.
Yeah.
This is just keeping up so that we don't have any
Yeah, so the NFPA sets the requirements to,
safe.
You have to keep rotating.
so NFPA sets the gear at a 10-year life expectancy. So at 10 years, whether the gear's been used or not, unfortunately, it has to be put to surplus.
If everybody comes up last year when it came up, there was a big price increase in bunker gear.
Okay.
And we agreed to pay 4. We did a deep evaluation of the gear that we had. So last year we knocked it down to 4. Just makers. And next year, go ahead and ask for the heat updated. Again, we evaluated that, and currently we're still comfortable with 6. We're not asking for 8. That doesn't mean that those 2 may not catch up to us, but right now we're comfortable with the 6. Do you currently have, so the 6, or how many of those are going to go into use?
All
Every one of them.
they could use. So it has to be rotated.
If it's damaged, we won't have any extra, I guess.
So the NFPA sets a requirement to have 2 sets of bunker gear per firefighter. That's fiscally not capable to happen inside of our organization. We do our best to make that fit for our career firefighters, but not for our part-time and volunteer firefighters. So we would, of course, use gear throughout our system and be able to do that. So we have ways of, if somebody's gear was to be majorly destroyed and put out of service, that we could get somebody gear, yes.
I guess.
Yeah, the other answer to your question is, this gear goes to the primary staff. Primary staff gear goes to part-timers. Part-timer gear goes to volunteers. Their gear is as it gets outdated, it gets replaced. So it flows through the system.
I guess something happened mid-year where somebody's stuff got trashed, you can, I guess, order another one, not.
Correct, yeah. Yeah.
Be back in your scene,
And that's why, in addition, we went with this company, is they have a 3-month lead time. Most organizations are telling us about 12 months.
Oh, wow. We should. Yeah.
What you're put in front of you, inside your budget justification, is going to give our firefighters a high level of cancer prevention, initial line of cancer prevention that we can buy on the market right now. And I don't say that to be unfiscally responsible with the money, but this is going to be a first line of defense for every one of our firefighters, because there's certain things we can't do financially that this will help us increase the exposure rate, the decreased exposure rate, excuse me, to the carcinogens.
Good. Motion.
Motion to approve the purchase request for 6 bunker gear.
I have a motion second. Further discussion? Anyone from the public like to comment? Seeing no hands up, put it to vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Oh, sorry, Todd. Do you have aye?
Aye.
Aye, aye.
He's a pirate now.
Opposed? Next up, item number 8, purchase request, FEMA grant award match funds. I'll pass it to Mr. Koppler for introduction.
The fire department was awarded a FEMA AFG grant in the amount of $125,000 for the purchase of a mobile air trailer. The city's obligation is a 5% match totaling $5,952.39, which is budgeted in the Penny for Pasco Fund. The city received a bid in the amount of $156,743.19 for the purchase of the trailer. Staff is requesting approval to purchase the trailer for $37,695.58. So it's the purchase price minus the grant, which equals an amount of $31,743.19. Difference between grant amount and purchase price plus the 5% obligation.
So I actually have a couple questions on this, so I'll open. This grant was awarded back on September 9th of 2022. And so I'm assuming that the inflated price has to do with the time frame. So first question is why are we looking at this at such a later time down the road? Why wouldn't this acted on back September 9th, 2022 when the grant was awarded? First question. And then the second question is we only had one bid, I guess, and I believe it said in here you guys went back to FEMA to see if they would honor the higher price, and what they had come back with was that that bid didn't coincide with what their market rate for these things were. So it sounds like we got one bid and they're higher than what, at least what FEMA's hearing. And I know there's some restrictions on who can fulfill this stuff. I'm not sure why we only got one bid, but if you guys could talk a little bit more to that aspect of it.
So I'll answer that question first. You're asking about that. We initially set the grant project for $180,000 when we contacted FEMA. We originally submitted the grant. When we were awarded the grant, they came back and said, hey, to market research of 2019 market research and 2018 market research, that's not current pricing. And I said, well, I can't get anything in 2019 that we can get around these times. And they said, well, put it out to bid. And unfortunately, that's what we're willing to give for this project, this health and safety project, because we're prioritizing it on their list. So it wasn't that we went to FEMA and then said, hey, the bids came back more. We initially went to them and said, hey, you gave us less money than what we thought. So that kind of answers part of question one.
That was what they saw was allowable on their side.
That delayed us the answer from them. The other second was really finding somebody that would build a trailer that wasn't this big extravagant $370,000 trailer. Most of these trailers are fifth wheel trailers. They have rehabs in them. They have all these air conditioning units inside of them. They have cooling stations. And we were really looking for somebody that would build us a modest trailer that, we don't need that rehab and SCBA trailer like most organizations are getting. So that also delayed us in the project. And then it was really finding manufacturers. Once we found somebody that could do it, hey, was there other manufacturers out there that could do it? And going through, was there state bid? Were we able to run this on a state bid? Did we have to put it out to bid? Was there something that we could, under contract pricing, get this under? So that all took time to put us to where we're at and to do our due diligence to make sure that we were getting what we needed, not going above and not going less, for making sure that we had our due diligence, to be able to stand in front of you guys and say, hey, look, this is what we need. It's not more, it's not less. You'll see on side of here that typically they have 8 banks. We've lowered the eight banks down for when that's where air stays stored. So we've lowered that quantity down. We've lowered the size of the trailer considerably. To a 20-foot trailer is what we lowered it down. So that all took time, is really what that did. It wasn't that we were trying to, trust me, we wanted to try to get this in front of you as quick as possible. But with the delay of getting the answer back from FEMA, market research value, the finding somebody that can build what we need, not what's out currently burned, and then finding out how we're going to be able to purchase this, it was really the three things.
The nature of what you wanted,
Correct.
what we could afford, you only had one bidder.
Yeah, and I called other organizations, and what it is in fire equipment, there's a lot of sole source. When I mean sole source is who, one, for instance, we wear what we call an SCBA, the self-contained breathing apparatus, which would fill this. There's two main people that sell those, Scott and MSA. We wear MSA because that's what everybody wears around us. There's only one person that can sell MSA in the state of Florida, and it's 10-8 fire equipment. So we're kind of have to do that. The Bauer compressor is probably your leading compressor. It's what every organization in this whole area is using. So for continuity, the ability to get this thing serviced and repaired, there's Mako compressors out there, but there's not a Mako. The closest Mako repair shop is in Ocala, where a Bauer compressor can be fixed with the help of Pasco County. So that was the other reason why we kind of did this, is we'd be able to service this, because it does have to be serviced.
Just a real quick question, a basic question. A lot of people in the audience and the residents aren't going to know what is contained in this trailer by looking at this. Can you explain why you need this trailer?
So what this is going to allow the fire department to do, currently we wear the self-contained breathing apparatuses inside structure fires. That's what helps us breathe inside of a fire. How we currently fill those bottles, they have to be filled, right? How we currently fill those is we have to travel all the way to Newport G Station 2 off High Street. So that's taking our one and only fire truck for the city and putting it all the way off High Street, just the drive. And the other, with that, the bottles need to be regularly topped off, changing air temperature. Every day, those have to be turned on and shut off to make sure that, hey, are they working adequately? So what this is going to allow us to do is to be self-sustained on being able to fill our own SCBAs. We're the only rapid diver department in Pasco County, so it's also going to allow us to fill our scuba tanks. This is also going to allow us an area of refuge for our firefighters, and we got to be careful because FEMA is very particular about not calling it rehab trailer, because that's when we get into those big numbers. So we'll have an area of refuge for our firefighters to be at during inclement weather. The July 4th event is one that I was talking about right now. We sit under a tent. We don't have an air-conditioned area to kind of for our firefighters to go into. It's not going to be a very big area, as you can tell by the drawing, but it's going to be big enough to put some firefighters or even a patient, maybe that's overheated. When we evacuate the trailer park, and hopefully we don't have that issue again where it floods, we can use this trailer to at least put the people inside of there until the buses can come as an area of refuge for them. Our water rescues we'll be able to use on that, because that's going to be able to ability to fill on our scenes. And then, of course, structure fires. When we get called to a structure fire or building fire, and I have some stats on that. In 2022, we had 39 type fires that this would have be used on, where somebody was breathing off of air. Currently, year to date in 2023, we have had 53 type of fires. Now, these, I don't want to make, we have 53 house fires. These are fires that firefighters wore an SCBA on, or were breathing on, and we had to fill that. So that could have been a car fire, that could have been a brush fire, that could have been a small mobile home fire. But there was 53 instances where this would have been used year to date.
Those numbers don't even include training and simulations. Like just the other day, I had to take the whole dive team out, and we did dive training, and we had to drive to Newport Richie Station 2 and hope those guys were in quarters to try to get our air bottles filled. We had to limit the amount of diving we could do because we only had so much air with us. We're in this situation now, whether it's a house fire or a training scenario, our air compressor is with us. We can train as long as we need to train, fill our own bottles. And keyword, it makes us more self-sustained and not dependent upon somebody else to help us.
When you guys fill the stuff now, are we paying to have those filled, or how we fill them?
They do it for us. We transport it to their locations. Station 30 by the government center has a system set up there, and then Newport Station 2. It gets to be a hassle in the middle of the night. We got an incident at 2 or 3 in the morning, then we have to go and hey, can you guys wake up and fill our bottles for us and help us out? So we're trying to eliminate those, make ourselves more self-sustaining, and then to where even in the training scenarios, we don't have to depend on other people, you know, to do things that are really routine. Like you said, every day we turn these air packs on and they bleed off a little bit. So weekly, we're going to those locations to top off our bottles. NFP requires us to keep them at a certain level. So we're checking them every day. It bleeds them down a little bit. And then next thing you know, all 5, air packs on each truck, you have to be topped off. It just eliminates that whole process.
And we've been working on this project for about 4 to 5 years now, because a lot of people probably ask them why a trailer system and not a permanent station mounted system. With discussions of possibly a fire station. Once it's permanently mounted, it's there. And then we got to pay to have that thing removed. In addition to that, our building electrical, from tentatively been told that our building electrical couldn't support a whole electric system. That's why another reason why a little bit of an increased cost here is we want a diesel engine so that this trailer can be filled and top off its banks no matter where we're at. So if we had to evacuate the fire station during a hurricane like we've had to do for the past 2 years, we can park that trailer here, and that trailer is still going to service us, where if we had an electrical compressor, we would have to run, is 320, correct? 220, excuse me. I'm not very good with electric. Don't put me on that.
There is no 320.
There is in Tom's house.
Disclaimer, I'm not good with electric. I know fire.
I'm an electrician, I can tell you.
Stay away. So we would have to run 220, and that means wherever we would have to anticipate, well, where are we going to be next to have those electrical systems ran? So there was other options that we could try to go do, but everything kind of filtered us
Hit a dead end.
this path.
On this road.
And the sustainability, to be able to do there. And the big thing was to push this on to FEMA. If you read inside my justification letter, it seems like a lot that we're in addition. So we're contributing 37, but we would have had to contribute 5,000. So we'll just say $6,000 anyway. With that additional $31,000, even if we took that $31,000 and said, hey, let's go just buy a system. Let's turn back the grant and let's go buy a system. We're still at $75,000 just for the system. That's not including the insulation inside the building, the training of our firefighters to be set inside there for our system.
So what is the warranty, since there's numerous components within this trailer? What's the warranty?
So the trailer is a 1-year bumper to bumper inside the trailer. The manufacturer gives you 5 years on the compressor. The bottles are 20 years because they're steel bottles. So 20 years on your bottles. And then you're just your normal testing and stuff. It has CO monitors in it that you're going to, of course, have to test it. But we've already adjusted equipment maintenance in the general fund for what we would anticipate the cost of this to maintain this trailer.
And every vehicle that the fire department has is capable of pulling this, or would you?
That's why we purchased the brush truck and the F-250 was in anticipation of being able to pull this trailer. It will take a 250 truck to pull this trailer, just because it's got a diesel engine in it.
We have 2 vehicles that's applicable, actually 3, the F-150.
Yeah.
But we prefer to use the other 2. So we actually have 3
And,
vehicles.
and the training, obviously there is training on this, is something that's going to be done in-house.
They're going to come in for it.
It's actually included in the price.
Yeah, they're going to come in and train every firefighter.
Motion to approve the FEMA grant.
Second. A motion second. Further discussion? Anyone from the public like to comment? Mr. Mueller, welcome.
Dave Mueller, 5439 Blue Point Drive. In the discussion that just preceded me, there was a mention about a diesel generator, I believe. Some kind of diesel engine, right? Could a gas engine be substituted for that? I don't know what the KW demands are on that. 50 amp service, whatever. But I know diesel is a lot more expensive than gas. Might be a consideration to look at the requirements on that particular trailer and try to get it within the allotment that was initially called for. Just an observation. Thank you.
Thanks. Well, yeah, could you comment on that? I'd be interested in hearing this.
You looked into this too.
The generator only comes in diesel or electric. There's no gasoline options we ask that.
Yeah.
Because, of course, gasoline engines are a lot easier to fix than diesel engines.
All right. Anyone else like to comment? Seeing no hands, I'll put it to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next up is approval of resolution number 23-16, penny for Pasco. I'll pass it to Mr. Copley for introduction.
On July 12th, 2022, a new penny for Pasco interlocal agreement was signed between the City of Port Richey and Pasco County. According to page 3, letter B, section 4, use proceeds, a resolution should have been drafted to determine the use of funds per the new agreement. The city attorney and interim city manager have discussed his oversight and decided to draft a new resolution to coincide with the new interlocal agreement. The resolution provides a described general list of projects for which the funds can be used.
I'll read the resolution by title. Resolution 23-16, a resolution of the City Council of the City of Port Richey, Florida, relating to the use of the local government infrastructure surtax allocated to the City of Port Richey in accordance with the provisions of the interlocal agreement between Pasco County School Board, and municipalities, and Section 212.055, subsection 2, Florida statute, and providing for an effective date.
Was there any change between the last resolution and this one?
It's been a while since I drafted it. I don't believe so. I believe the 4 categories that you see on page 208 are the same as the 4 categories in the last resolution. And Sally's saying no, there was no changes.
No, we kept it the same as the previous one, so we can keep it general to the same descriptions.
Okay. The reason I asked, I actually read that a few meetings back. I just want to make sure that everything was still the same. For motion and or discussion.
Motion to approve resolution 23-16, penny for Pasco.
The motion second. Further discussion? Anyone from the public like to comment? Seeing no hands, I'll put it to vote. All in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Opposed? Motion carries. Last item of business, number 10, approval of impact fee study by Stantec Services, Inc. I'll pass it to Mr. Copley for introduction.
Thank you. This action would allow the city to complete a stormwater, police, fire, and traffic impact fee study. These fees would be imposed on new development within the city. City staff and the interim city manager have discussed these fees and determined that the current rates are outdated and need to be revised. The impact fees have not been changed or reviewed since 2006. Stantec's consulting services provided a detailed proposal to review the impact fees and provide new calculated impact fees for the city.
I'll open again. Just this is obviously always a theme of mine anyway, is that, you know, is there things we can do in-house as opposed to paying an outside firm to do for us? Again, impact fees. We could probably look at Newport Richey's impact fees, look at different government entities' impact fees and compare those to ours. Also, we have financial data in-house that we know what it takes to put in sewers, put in water pipes or whatever, and kind of back into what we would need to charge for impact fees. I guess that's the kind of work that they would be providing for almost $40,000. Is there a reason we shouldn't try to do that in-house as opposed to hiring it done?
Well, my first thought on this, although in the states where I've been, we haven't done impact fees per se, but let me use the example of the stormwater fees that we would charge in other cities for our utility. Generally, there are things that I probably could have done myself on a spreadsheet, but you open yourself, especially in impact fees as well, to the possibility of being sued. And what you get from this is a methodology that can be explained, reviewed, been done, multiplied from other cities, and helps protect you from doing something that could cost you a lot more than $40,000. That's my initial take on this, why you would
kind of built in insurance policy.
Yeah, because you're able to, one, say this is something that's been looked at by someone that does this for a living. They can make sure that if there is a suit against the city because of one of these, they will be there to also testify, what their methodology was and provide that information.
If you could possibly add some color to, as far as a lawsuit? Because obviously these would be, let's say we go through in-house and we up the fees to whatever, Matt decides is kind of in his comfort range. It does his, numbers crunching and sees that it's posted. I guess what risk does that open up? Because that's posted, they would come forward, they pay the fee. So at that point, then to say, well, maybe they saw some other thing. Well, gosh, I paid X amount. It's so much less at this other place, and file suit.
I think it's what Mr. Cobbler already pointed to. If you have the coverage of, here's the methodology. It's the standard methodology that is used within an accepted method that's used within the world of impact fees. It protects your implementation versus, well, we asked Matt to do it. He found some numbers. He looked at Newport Richey and put it together. You're really not able to support that it's the methodology that's accepted in the community. So it would. I'm not saying you couldn't. I'm sure he would do brilliant.
I was going to say that it would be a really good study that I put together.
Right. I'm not.
The one piece that I wouldn't have is a history of doing this consistently and not being.
And that's with a lot of these stormwater fees and impact fees. Many of the things that you pay money for these, you're paying for their expertise. Finding someone that may have the time to do the research and put it together and come up with a number is possible, but you're paying for the expertise, that you're getting the right product, the right rate for your citizens, the right rate for the city from both sides of that, for an expert that knows what they're looking at, and it protects you.
I understand your rationale for asking, because on maybe on a bigger city scale where they have more resources and more expertise in doing that, or on a personal level in my home, I totally understand where you're coming from. I really do. I think on our size city right now, it would be difficult to come up with something that might be accurate and fair to both sides, fair to us as well as fair to the people that we're charging the impact fees to. So, but I understand your rationale for asking.
No, I definitely see the value.
If I may,
Absolutely.
can anyone hear me?
Yep. You have the floor.
Coming from the other side of it, if you have a major project go on within the city, the impact fees could go hundreds of thousands and even $1 million for that. To some degree, the impact fees are the impact of the project and how it's calculated to the city. If I am a developer who has to pay those fees, and those fees seem exorbitant and they're not supported, I can sue the city and have those fees essentially thrown out if they are not, if the process that is that went to support the institution of those fees is not found, the judge can actually throw out the imposition of those fees to the developer. So I agree with what Mr. Koppler said. The fees themselves, it's the process and Stantec's engineered seal, for lack of a better term, and the process that they use to put together those fees is what's supporting those fees. So to say, yeah, we took Newport Richey's, I don't want to make a legal statement, but a judge will have a hard time supporting, saying, yeah, we took so-and-so's fees because they sounded good. I, as a developer, would then challenge that and go for a lower fee, and then you're having a judge institute your fee. And that's basically what we're paying for, that defense.
Okay, thank you.
Makes sense. And obviously that from the good side of it is whatever we'd come up with in house might not be enough. Whereas we get more through these guys who have the expertise, and so we'd actually make that $40,000 back in impact fees that we calculated correctly. So I get it. I think impact fees is probably a pretty important part, especially with development coming in. So I think I understand. The only other question that I had is, this wasn't put out to bid, I guess. This is just give one estimate, or?
They're part of our approved engineer list.
Right.
So we can go to them at any time for a quote like this and proceed with that particular firm.
But do we have other ones that we could, on the approved list, if I know we do, that we could just to see what they would charge, to see if there's any?
We reached out to the list, but this is what they do. They've done our other rate studies when it comes to whatnot. So if you're going to hire a firm, it would be them.
Okay, thanks. Any other discussion and or motion?
Motion to approve the impact fee study by Stantec Services, Inc.
Second. Motion second, further discussion? Anyone from the public like to speak? See no hands, I'll put it to vote. All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Last up is old business. Anybody else have anything about old business? I do. Okay, let me cover what I have. So on the street, I had a question about the light post at Wilkins and Bay.
I was actually going to raise my hand for a correction on that. The information I received, and then I got a picture later on. I sent Public Works to get me, to see if the light was up, but they sent me a picture of the wrong pole. And by the time this was generated, I saw the picture, and I'm like, that's the wrong pole. That's like,
so it's not up.
It's not up
Yeah,
yet.
because I drove in, I didn't see it. I'm like, I don't know where it's at here.
No, so that needs to be corrected. But
Okay.
the task order is still out, but obviously, I don't know if everyone still noticed, they're still doing a lot of contracted work with the pole work, throughout the city and throughout, Course Ridge Road here has been doing a lot of work. So we're continuing to follow up on that task order when they're going to actually install it. But we've done everything on our end. It's just a matter of time when they put it out.
No, that's really, because it said it was there and I didn't see it. I want to make sure that something was, either my eyesight was bad or there was something wrong there. Not on here, but I wanted to ask the question, if we go to the grant report. There it is. It's, well, there's no page number, but it's about halfway back, or almost like 2/3 way back. On item number 2, Restore Act, Fort Ritchie Waterfront Improvement Project, $672K, request to amend project to remove dredging component approved by council. The staff's on here, working on preparing second amendment to be submitted to the county. They presented the second amendment to council on October 11th, 2022. The second amendment approved by council and submitted to the county. As of 7/28, a few months ago, working on scheduling a meeting with the new grant coordinator county, has been no change. One question I had was, is that something that I can help facilitate to get that meeting set up? Why it's taking so long to get a meeting with the county grant coordinator? And 2, I believe this is the 672. This is a 667 amount that was, I'm not sure why the amount is different, but my understanding that funding had been pulled. So I just wanted to see, one, can I help get that meeting established through my contacts, or what's going on there, I guess. If you can maybe look into that.
Yeah.
Because that's been on there forever. I'll say that.
Last I heard, the county's not been very communicative on this.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm saying. If we're trying to get a meeting set up, I can help with that. So just reach out and let me know. Okay. Any other discussions, old business? We'll look for a motion.
Motion to adjourn.
All in favor, signify by saying aye. Aye. Meeting adjourned.